Harpod Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, and radio network. What do we have in store for you on this edition of the program? Trevor Lawrence time. It looks like the Jaguars working on a long-term deal with him. A long-term deal for a quarterback now is what? 5 years? 6 years? Why, they need to go the Patrick Mahomes route, but they really can't with him just because of the injury history and some question marks. There's 4 different quarterback contracts we're going to look at when it comes to Trevor Lawrence and tell you where the Jags probably end up going. Also, oh boy, speaking of craziness in the Sunshine State, a story came out that Deion Sanders could be the next head coach at Florida. Never going to happen. I'd love to see it. Never going to happen. And this same network, I'm going to call it that, has Ryan Day going to Miami at the end of the year. This is like the danger, what era we're in now, because you see a story that pops up. Could Deion Sanders end up with the Gators? It's like, what is this? And then you go look at the network, you're like, oh my God. So I'll tell you what the network is and why neither of those things are going to happen. And going to wrap with golf's gap. Xander Schauffele, good for him, but he now becomes the, 9th different golfer to win a major in the last 9 tournaments. Not a recipe for success, gang. It's just not. All right, Harp on Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, radio network. Follow, share, like, subscribe at Harp on Sports Twitter, at Harp on Sports Instagram, Harp on Sports auditory route, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts under the Bar heading, Harp on Sports Facebook page, Harp on Sports, the Bar, the YouTube channel, and of course, harponsports.com. Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence looking at a big deal, big contract, and there's talk. But no, we're starting to hear that Trevor Lawrence working on a long-term deal. This makes sense. An extension, I should say, long-term deal as opposed to extension. This makes sense. When you look at the likes of what Kirk Cousins got, when you look at the likes of what some big deals that have gotten done in the last year, what Lamar Jackson got, what Justin Herbert just got, and you start to look at this and go, yeah, you kind of have to. Where you are cap-wise, and I went through and looked at this, and the Josh Allen long-term prospects in Jacksonville make this a big thing too, because you're going to sign him to a long-term deal. Also, long-term deal with Trevor Lawrence. Guys start to fall off the book. Salary cap goes up, so you need to lock these in right now. The Jaguars have $34 million in cap space this year. So you can signing bonus it and throw some into the front end of this. Next year, you can't put any money into it because they only have $21 million in cap space. Year 3, $105 million. Year 4, $213 million. So a big hit of this is going to hit in year 4 for the Jags. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to contracts like this, and extensions now in the NFL, that there's different ways to do this. The Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes way is when you have a guy and he's your guy, and you're set, you're sold, 10-year deal. 2 years ago, the Chiefs began 3 years ago, the Chiefs began a 10-year, $450 million contract with Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. So they can constantly convert things into signing bonuses and give him more money up front to come out of the cap later on. But that's a great deal for the Chiefs. And they redid it, but they're in great shape. 7 years left on that sucker, 8 years left on that sucker. So they're in great shape. Here's where it starts to get tricky, because his average is about $45 million a year, and it really ratchets up here in like 2 or 3 years for Mahomes, but the cap will go up and then it goes down again. There's 1 year in there he's only making like $24 million, so they can keep adding $3 million more, $3 million more, and giving him more money up front. So that's what you'd like to do. But with Trevor Lawrence's injury concerns, you can't do that. So what you're likely going to get is something similar to what Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert got. Joe Burrow's deal, 6 years, $275. Justin Herbert's deal, 6 years, $262. You look at what Jared Goff just got, and he got a 4-year extension worth $212, but he's set to make 23, so that's basically $245. So what do I expect? I expect it to be, it's going to be between Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, isn't it? 6 years, 275-ish. You could go 7,300, but now the difference between the Burrow and the Herbert contract is Burrow's got a $9 million void year at the end of it. Herbert does not. So in 2029, 2030, the Bengals are going to pay Joe Burrow $9 million even if he's not on the team. Again, this is where we are contract-wise. Trevor's time. He's going to get paid. It's just a question of how they shake this out, where they put the money. So you look at like big cap hits, and I mentioned Joe Burrow. In year 5 and year 6 of this contract, it's a 56 and 50, or a 53 and $57 million cap hit. Well, you're able to do that down the road because the cap's going to keep going up. So what do I expect with this? That $105 million year 1, 2, 3 of this, year 4 and 5, expect, if they do 6 years, expect year 4 and year 5 to be like $54, $58 million for Trevor Lawrence. Look, you can do this as you put the money on the back end. Now, if he gets hurt or it doesn't work out, now, yeah, he was having a good year until he got hurt last year. So this is where you have to kind of go all in with your quarterback. Hope that he stays healthy. You can't, look, if you rolled the dice on this, and the one thing the Jags do have going for them is they already picked up his option. And what, next year, he's what, $25 million next year? So when they have only $21 million in cap space, they already promised 25 to him. So if you ratchet that up, let's say you give him $6 million back end 12, you can pay him like $38 million next year and just bury that like in year 4 of the cap. The Jags are fine financially to get a deal done with Trevor Lawrence. They are. But you saw the Kirk Cousins deal, and Baker Mayfield all of a sudden at 3 years 90 looks like a pretty good deal, doesn't it? 3 years 100, right? And that looks like a pretty good deal. The going rate for a quarterback's $50 million a year. Just is. A decade ago it was 22. Now it's 50. And it's going to keep going up and up and up. And you see receivers getting 35, 40 million now. So if you're the Jags, you don't really have a choice. Is he your guy? Well, we're not sure. You don't get an I'm not sure in this business. You're either in or you're out. Okay, all chips in. He's going to get a Burrow type of deal. So let's see where I go. I'm going to say when it's all said and done, remember Goff's 235. Burrow 6,275. Herbert 6,262. Mahomes is 10,450. You'd like to do the Mahomes deal, but you can't sign Trevor Lawrence to a 10-year deal. Just can't. You could. Financially, you could. But now quarterbacks kind of look around and go, wait a second here. I only want 4 or 5 so I can cash in again. Dak Prescott so I can cash in again. What do I say? I say when it's all said and done, you're going to see a 6-year extension, probably around 2. I think he'll get more than, he's going to get more than Burrow. He'll get 6,270. More guaranteed money. 6,270, but more guaranteed money. So, look, and it's one of these things, well, we got to give him another year. You can't. You've got to get, this is one of those things you have to get done now. You just do. Financially, you have to get it done. Because if you wait, it ends up costing you $30, $40 million more down the road. That's a big risk. $120 million, if it doesn't work out, you're kind of hosed. But it's kind of where you are. So Trevor's time, going to cash in, and don't really have much of a choice. Something you do have a choice with is this next thing, because, look, I am a big, before, final thought on those other contracts. You see where Dak Prescott is too, entering the final year of his, coming up on a final year of his deal. You have a situation where Josh Allen, now $44 million a year, as he starts to get, well, he's got 2 years left after this upcoming year. You start to look at some of these other deals too. Quarterback going right now, it's a 5 or 6 year deal with about $230 million. Who are some of the other big ones to come up? Tua Tagovailoa is another one. The Dolphins are in a little bit of a cap mess this year. next year, 2 years, they'll be fine down the road here, 2 or 3 years. But that's the brilliance of these deals is you can bury the money 3 or 4 years against the cap and pay them up front. So plenty of space. Something that took space up in my thought process for about 10 seconds. Then I read the article. I'm like, nope. And you're going to start to see this week because it just populated this weekend. Don't be surprised if Deion Sanders ends up with the Gators next year if it doesn't work out for Napier. Like, now, look, I'd love to see that if that's the case, but let's not forget that Lane Kiffin was too risque for Florida's athletic department. Well, not the entire athletic department, but pieces of it. Too out there. First of all, Deion would never take it. He wouldn't. I'm telling you, Deion Sanders would never be the head coach of Florida or Miami. He just wouldn't do it. He wouldn't. You pay him enough, yeah, he's not going to do it. He's just not. The thing is, I started to read the article. I'm like, wait a second, where does this come from? And it came from something called TWSN, the Right Sports Network. And I'm like, the Right Way Sports Network. What on earth is that? Is it Nick Wright? No. Oh, it's some guy by the name of Wright? TWSN. I know TSN, old Canadian hockey. Wait a second. This is some dude with a website with a network. What? Oh, all right. Come on. And then, I have people texting me and writing me like, Seth, did you see the Deion story? I'm like, that's some guy that has his own. That's the Harpon Sports Network. They'd be like, I'm hearing Deion Sanders is going to be the next head coach of the Knicks. Ooh, by the way, Pacers in 7. The Knicks. Well, Harpon Sports Network is reporting it. Well, there's no really validity. Yeah. Now, I always have said what I think should happen. What I think would be a good fit, what the smart financial thing. You've heard me say those things. Again, I'd love to see Deion, but it's never going to happen. Deion Sanders could be the next head coach. No, he's not. No, he's not. There's a difference between what I want, what I'd like to see, and what the reality of the situation is. The reality of the situation is there's no way on earth Deion Sanders is going to get hired at the University of Florida. It's not going to happen. It's not. And then the other thing that I saw is Ryan, and I'm like, wait a second. Ryan, then I looked down a couple spaces like, don't be surprised if Ryan Day ends up as the next head coach of the Miami Hurricanes. I'm like, wait, what? Where are they getting this from? Well, it's the same website. Well, hell, I could just make a bunch of ridiculous predictions. Phil Jackson's next head coach, Duke, and don't be surprised at all in NFL next year, Andy Reid's the next head coach of the Jets. And don't be surprised at all. I'm just going to pick a name that somebody that could get fired. Marcus Freeman is going to be the next head coach of the Bears. And while we're at it, let's see, who else do we have out here? Don't be surprised if Greg Popovich is the next head coach of the what team out there? Lakers. Greg Popovich is going to be next head coach of the Lakers. And let's see, what else do we have? Don't be surprised at all if the next manager of the Yankees at the end of the year when Boone's they're going to make the playoffs. But if they fall apart, don't be surprised. The next manager of the Yankees is Derek Jeter. And see, I can make a bunch of stuff up too. It's ridiculous. So, again, I don't. You're entitled to your opinion. If you want that, it's fine. I've always said this. People can say what they want. Go ahead. But I'm the reality fairy. Sprinkle a little reality dust on you. And in this case, the Right Sports Network, the Right Way Sports Network, or whatever this thing is, Deion could end up in Gainesville. He'll be the next head coach there. I won't. If he has any sort of decent year, he goes 8-4 or whatever. If Billy Napier's look, I don't know what Florida would do if it falls apart on Napier, but he's not going to hire Deion. No way. Again, Lane Kiffin was too risky. Personality-wise. You think they're going to hire Deion here? No. Absolutely not. All right. So that is that. Ridiculous. And I wanted to wrap with this. I'm one of those guys that I always say this during golf majors. I don't watch random golf tournaments. I just don't. I watch the 4 majors and I watch the Ryder Cup. And I'm not going to go, well, what's the best tournament? This one's the worst. Nah, come on. I like the U.S. Open the most. People like the Masters. That's fine. The PGA Championship is 5th behind the Ryder Cup for me. I've always said this. U.S. Open, Masters, Ryder Cup, British, PGA, whatever. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is golf can't build big names with what's happened the last 2.5 years. The last 9 tournaments, they've had 9 different winners. Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler, Brian Harman, Wyndham Clark, Brooks Koepka, John Rahm, Cam Smith, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Thomas. So you look back the last 9 majors, 9 different people have won. And then the 10th major, Scotty Scheffler won. So he's won 2 of the last 10. Now, they had a little thing going last year with Rahm and Koepka. Okay, here we go. What do we have? What's going on here? But, yeah. It just... And look, these guys, they're nice guys. But no Dustin Johnson, no Rory McIlroy, no Jordan Spieth. No, these guys aren't around the leaderboard, man. And I would venture a guess I probably watched the whole tournament. Maybe a half hour. That's not like me either. Majors, give me a reason to waste a beautiful, sunny Saturday and Sunday. Make me stay in. Make me stay in on a perfect Saturday and Sunday in Florida, weather-wise. Couldn't do it. Now look, Brian DeChambeau was up there. I get it, but hey, if he'd have won, then you'd have been right back where you are. 9 different guys, last 9 majors. Brooks Koepka about 4 or 5 years ago had some momentum. Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm. Okay, golf just can't put that thing together where, you have a guy win it. Like, look, it could come out like for the U.S. Open that Brooks Koepka could win the U.S. Open. You're like, see, Seth, there, he just won again. I get it. But golf just can't get that momentum where there's like 2 or 3 guys. You back, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, you had that kind of run with even Ernie Els 15, 20 years ago. You don't have that anymore. 9 different guys winning 9 in a row. That never works for anything. Baseball, what year was it? Baseball had like a 6-year run where 6 different teams won a World Series. I was like, this is great. Not really. It's not. The NBA is kind of going through that right now, isn't it? Last year, who won it? Denver. Who won it the year before? Golden State. All right, who won it the year before? The Bucks won it the year before? Who won it the year before? Well, the Lakers won it. Okay, Lakers. Who won it the year before? Well, the Raptors. See? When you look at, what do people talk about? Well, their dynasty's not as good as that dynasty, and that dynasty. You don't have one of those anymore. Now, look. You get the Celtics and the Nuggets again. Oh, okay. Now you can start to go down that path of discussion. But the NBA was built in the 80s. It becomes this monster. Why? Because it was the Lakers and the Celtics is what everybody wanted. In the 90s, everybody wanted the Bulls. Then you had Kobe and Shaq's Lakers, and then you got the Spurs in there that threw a little wrinkle into it. But golf is just one of these things that you need big names around all the time. It's what's killed men's tennis. Well, not the fact that you don't also have an American brain in there, but you had Nadal, you had Federer. It doesn't exist anymore. Now you have the Joker, but come on. Just cannot build any momentum. Yeah. Xander Schauffele seems like a cool guy. Great. But golf, as long as golf keeps... Okay, well, he's a good golfer, Seth. Great. Fantastic. Golf was at its zenith when what? When you had Jack and Arnie, and then it had a lull in the 80s, into the 90s. Here comes Tiger. Then you had Tiger and you had Phil, and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Just, well, if all your active major winners, Tiger's banged up. Tiger's got double digits. What Phil's got? What's Phil have? 6? And then Rory hasn't won one in over a decade. Jordan Spieth, we're coming up on he won 4 out of the first 9 tournaments he's in and won 1 since. Koepka's won 5. But only won 1 the last 4 years, 5 years. You just cannot build the momentum. So golf, it's golf's gap. Tell you, like if golf, if 3 people won 7 of the next 10 majors, that'd be perfect for that sport. You look at the Chiefs in football, dynasty mode, right? You may not like dynasties. You may say you hate them, but you consume them. And having a name, oh, look who's at the top of the... I've been begging for this for a decade for golf. It just doesn't happen. So, all right. Good for him. People in the golf community love it, but golf is not going to grow because people in the golf community love it. I've always said this. Middle of the pack fans, golf succeeds when guys like me consume it. Not regular, watch it no matter what. Got to grow your sport. You don't grow your sport with 9 different people winning the last 9 majors. You just don't. Harp On Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, radio network. Follow, share, like, subscribe. At Harp On Sports Twitter, at Harp On Sports Instagram, Harp On Sports, the auditory route, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Harp On Sports Facebook page, Harp On Sports, the Bar, under the YouTube channel, and of course, harponsports.com. Remember, stay clean, stay focused, stay strong. Frankenstein! Have fun with your friends.